Friday. That means it's Medium Nancy Matz Friday, and today's topic is how to handle the death of a long-term partner or an ex-partner. We'll be right back. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Happy Friday, everybody. How's everybody doing? I can hear you out there going, thank God it's Friday. You know what? That's true. It's been an interesting week for everybody. I'm just going to say that. We don't do politics or religion or anything here, but it has been an eventful week. I'll tell you that for sure. I'll tell you. And today was an eventful day. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour or so. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California. We are 45 strong up and down the state, which means if you think you have a paranormal need, we can help you out. Might take us a while to get to you. Stephanie knows. Um, but we will get to you. This is a huge state. We also have branches in Nevada, Washington, Oregon, and Hawaii, which is kind of cool. Kind of cool. Anyway, welcome everybody. Wanted to make a quick couple announcements. I will be doing tarot card reads at 7:15 p.m. Pacific tonight after we do the show here. It is Casual Friday with Nancy, so I've got my Haunted Mansion Aloha shirt on today, and getting really excited. Getting really excited for tonight's show. But there's a lot of other things coming up on Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific. I will be taking you guys to breakfast with me over at Black Bear Diner. I got a free Hungry Bear breakfast for my birthday, so we're going to go over there and have breakfast. Have some pancakes, flapjacks, and things like that. So I'm going to be taking you guys with me, along with doing the usual book read later on that day. Anyway, we'll get the show going here, and Nancy Matz has been a friend of mine forever. We're really good friends, and we're always talking back and forth about things, and so this what she's going to talk about is really important today. People you've known for a long time, whether it's a partner or not, but somebody maybe you've known for 25, 30 years, or that you've been around. Well, even for some of you young folks, maybe 10 years, even. Okay, but someone like that, when somebody like that dies, it's like it leaves a big hole in you. You don't feel whole anymore. So you have to fight within yourself to recover, and then it's never a thing that you're going to get over it and move on, because you never move on. It's like losing a parent or a kid. You never really move on. You just continue on with life. But there's always that nagging feeling, that there's something missing in your life. How do you cope with that kind of thing? How do you cope with that kind of thing? Well, that's what Nancy's going to talk about tonight. Okay, so let me bring her in. We get the show going, and let's see Nancy. Here we go. Who's got the button? There we go.
There's a lot of aspects to this, and I'd be not exclusively talking about um, a relationship that ended
Right.
a long time ago, and then all of a sudden you hear about this individual dying. And over the years, I've had many, many situations, um, but what I'm dealing with tonight is that, oh my gosh, he's gone, and I
Mm-hmm.
cannot. So we're going to really kind of focus in on that. As far as losing a partner that you're married to, that's kind of a different story. We'd have to do that a different night because it's so complex. Um, I deal with this from the individual calling me who's dying, a client, or fearful of dying. And I've had clients that caught on fire. I've had brain tumor of the neck, and two ladies. I hope they're doing well. They just had a bunch of surgeries. But sometimes you identify the death of you also. And I've had many. And what that does is you're not dying, but you've been too close to it. The closest I had been to dying, two situations. I went over a cliff with a horse, and Rhonda and Linda, mother and daughter, were up at the top, and my horse got scared by a rattlesnake. and I went over. And in the moments of going over the cliff, and this was between Douglas and Auburn Lake Trails. I'm sure they're still there, but they were really an 86, 85, 86, 87 the range in there. I had a really tall horse, a quarter appy, real heavy, big horse. And she went down feet first, not head
Mm,
first or backside, which kept me from being. But I remember thinking at some point it gets really steep going down to the river. And that's all I could think about. And when it was over is when I started collecting my thoughts and thinking about it. And some of this that we're going to talk about is that the other one was 6 months and I would have been stage 4 cancer. And there's so many times when you've had accidents and you look back, and those are anchors in time for you.
mhm.
And whether you divorce somebody and then they die, that's another anchor because it's sometimes a catalyst for us to evaluate our life. We should add, my internet is really, really poor. I like typing this today, a couple hours, and on the side, I will do what we call the white noise. Couldn't even, wouldn't even stay on long enough. So as the afternoon is going on, there's a lot of political commentaries happening now on the internet. And if we get kicked off, then Char will have to say we'll continue next week. But I'm going to give a warning. It's been
Okay.
pretty bad. And I
Really
did
quick,
call,
when you
yeah.
talk about your experience on the horse, I had a similar experience
Hmm.
just before my 21st birthday.
Yeah.
I had this real cool sports car, and the fact the car got recalled, I found out after this because the steering wheels would lock.
Oh,
And I hit some black ice. My father grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, so he taught me how to drive on black ice. He took me out to a
mhm.
lake one day and said, "Here, hit the brakes." And I was like, you know. So he taught me
God,
how
I
to
can see
steer
your
out of
dad
it.
doing that. Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
he taught me how to steer out of it. But when I hit the black ice, I went to steer out of it, and the steering wheel wouldn't move. So
Uh-huh.
I kept going. And this is the area that, for the people that don't live here, about 45 to 60 minutes away, we hit big mountains up by Lake Tahoe. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
really high in altitude, lots of snow. And I was right at that real canyony part before you go up the, 50 up there. And my thought was, because you were thinking about the canyon and the river, my thought was I was heading for this big snowbank. And I thought,
Hmm.
I mean, I was moving. It wasn't like I was going to hit it slow. I was going to hit it really wham it. And my first thought was, it's going to be a hell of a view as I went over. And so I braced myself. And then I got really calm. It was weird. I got really calm. And then all of a sudden the car bounced off because lo and behold, there was a, uh, 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 what do they call it? That rail was there. That safety rail was up there. But I
Hmm.
honestly thought I was going over, and that was my whole thing. And what are you going to do? Like you said, what are you going to do? You're going over. There's nothing you can do. All you can do is just think, yeah, it's going to be a hell of a view. As I go plummeting into the canyon. But that
Well,
happened to me.
one we're going to have to have got a guest come in and explain their near death. I
Yeah,
also have north, pardon me, east of Pollock Pines going up, east of Placerville going to Pollock Pines, and I've mentioned this before. It was one of those moments where you go into a whiteout, and I'm going up a hill, and the freeway is very, very curvy, and I absolutely did not know where was, and I heard in my head, "Let go of the steering wheel." And that was made into a song. And this
yeah,
was in 96. No, it was in 99, 98 or 99. And it was the catalyst for me to move
yeah,
because I had a Geostorm, little tiny car, and it had snow tires on it. But when you hit that cement, when you were going over, I thought to myself, I'm such a small car that I was going to be buried because it was snowing. And so
yeah,
we all have those experiences.
yeah.
And so this is and we have plenty of weeks that we could do different aspects of grief, but this is sometimes a topic that for those who are going to be readers, it's not necessarily paranormal. And this
Mm-hmm.
is what the show is about, is the paranormal. But I would like to address those who are going to get into this as readers. There's some good information for you who are experiencing this. So even though it's not paranormal, I'm looking at my notes and unfortunately I cannot see the people in the room. I got to be able to look at the screen. So, in some ways, if you capture a thought, and I'm talking of you and your experience, then so be it. But this is such a big topic. And and this week I did have a client, and I have to say that world life experience helps. I am older. I only started 33 years ago in this, but I was for 24 years with Pacific Bell, even though I was management and had a lot of experience dealing with people. One of the areas is usually grievances and strikes and layoffs. You know, it's still not easy in the moment talking to somebody. And over the years, I mean, you have to be really calm. And I can be emotional. I'm not inhuman. I'm not somebody who can't experience this with you, but you have to keep your cool and you have to think quick because they're depending on you to take them off that cliff. And so just this past month, I've given my month ago, I said, uh, I have a new nickname. It's called the cliff catcher. And so I catch you if you're standing on the edge of the cliff. And I do think quickly, but I also have to train my mind continually. So if I were a new reader, if you're listening to this, do everything you can to be more spontaneous. I don't care if you play games, uh, anything on the internet. Teach yourself to think quicker and get
Mhm.
that card file of information in your mind and be comfortable being able to talk under pressure. I went through Toastmasters, but that was with the telephone company. I've done things where I've been put in front of groups of people. So when I got into this, the most I've talked to is probably 300 people, 350, and that was the Sacramento Convention Center 3-day event. And I talked 2 or 3 nights, it's been so long, but I talked to 75 people in 3 days and lectured and read the audience. And I want you to learn how to talk and think on your feet quickly. Some of these things are very difficult. So, first person, I mentioned this, but you may also get clients that are expecting you. And I've told people this. Yes, I've had experience, I've had training. Yes, 15 years working for a church, absolutely. I've had it, I've paid my dues, absolutely. But yet, you never know when someone's going to call what they're talking about.
Mhm.
It's always unknown on some level. If you were to know what someone's, by the way, my spouse or my ex-partner died 20 years ago and I'm grieving, you may think about that person, but you really don't know how you're going to address it.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's real difficult. The very first time this woman came to me and it was a breakup, he didn't die, but he was also 15 years younger. But it was to her a death because he went on with somebody else. She came in and happened to be a friend of my mother, so I knew that she was older to me, relatively. At the time, I must have been only 44, 43, 44, and she was bawling her eyes out. And I went, oh, this is not going to be fun. Not fun, but oh, I hope I know what the right thing to say. And evidently it was okay. She got back to my mom and said I helped her, but in the midst of all this, I asked her very gently, I says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So, how many years has it been since he abandoned you for another woman? And she said, 17 and a half years. And that was my first case. I'm not going to address the ones where the children die first. I'm not going to address the ones where a gentleman was killed by a trunk or a gas tank
Mhm.
carrier, whatever, and his wife comes to me later and got killed because they'd come to see me together. You can't address all of this. And so when I realized how important it was to start thinking about how do we survive, get control, take our power back, allow, surrender, all the things that we need to do so that we can go on. My
Mhm.
goal Yes, I hit my chest. My goal is help you survive. The only reason I got into this, I did have an ability. I never identified it. Never. I was called psychic the first night at Cannon Spiritual Church, um, Church of Grace, Northern California, part of the UCM, Universal Christ of the Master branch. It's a long title, but anyway, the first night oh, we know, oh, you're a psychic. And I was so insulted. I went, what? I don't want to be that because in those years it was kind of like you find those people in other places, not in the church. And when I got used to it, I started seeing spirit people because they said, you can't do this. I go, okay. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. Because I was never told I couldn't do something because they somehow knew try this, try that, and I just did. And so I call myself a bag of marbles. Pick marble, pull it out, and I'll talk about it. Whatever you need. But I want to go to a place of identifying yourself situation. Can you? So people come to you and they talk to you about a situation. Can you put yourself in that situation? Well, if you live a life, either you or some of your family or some you know have been through it. And the
Mhm.
grief can be as monumental as losing your parent, being abandoned by a person you trusted in a marriage. Or uh, I had a couple come to me from another country, and she came to me because she was in her loss of her marriage, and she brought her husband. And I go, ooh, how's this going to work? And she said, I've emotionally divorced him because he's gambled all our money away. That was really hard. And I had to get to a place of admitting and saying, I've had a lot of training, but for addictions, I'm not trained in addictions. But what she wanted me to do was to scold her husband for ruining their life. Not my job. I can't do that. And so you have to have your boundaries. You have to have your bound. You have to know what your boundaries are. No, I don't put it on my website. I don't deal with addictions. I don't because I don't have the training. But I also put to the universe, I just don't want to do that. I'm not best qualified. And I own that. I am good with everything else. But I've only had a few clients come to me. I've had clients come to me I didn't know were on cocaine, talking about infertility or talking about not being able to keep their job. And I'm sorting through this and I can't figure out what's wrong. Why can't I get a good answer? It's really hard. So, but you got to keep your cool. And how do I do that? In the midst of all this, I have to stand outside the circle of their grief and be a witness to their life. You have to be a witness to see the value of why they chose this life. And recently, over the last years, I would say a good year and a half, it occurred to me maybe people don't think about why they chose a particular life. I've been talking a lot. Sorry. And the allergies, doesn't help. But so when I talk to somebody and they're in a quandary, and I'll say, I really believe now in reincarnation. When I got into this, I didn't. And so that was that. And then I started having experiences. And mothers coming and calling me and say, my child won't call me mom because her mom's still in heaven with her sibling. Amazing stories. So YouTube is a great place to get the first taste of that if you have trouble believing this. I got to a place where I realize now the universe is so amazing. I just can't hardly believe it. And when you look from the satellite back on Earth with such a little speck of dirt, just tiny, yet all this beautiful quantum events and physics, and it's just, I have books around here how to understand quantum physics, and it's above me, but I'm going to finish reading it. It's on my shelf right handy somewhere over here or behind the board because I just can't believe that it's possible, this little piece of dirt in the universe. We are living and dying and living and dying and living and dying. And frankly, maybe I'd like to try somewhere else for a while. It's tough here. Absolutely. Anyway, so I'm going to start reading this. Hopefully, I'll get through a lot of it. If not, expose yourself to the ideas that I'm going to present. Okay. And so the first thing I want to mention, and remember, this is just writing notes because I'm not a college professor. I'm not taking you through the whole course. Sometimes just having a client come in and feeling what they're going through and identifying what they're feeling. I talked to a man once and he was grieving his sister. And I mentioned this a long time ago. I says, oh, what's happening? He says, why don't you just go to her and find out? And I put my mind to her. And when I was sitting above the house was not burnt, but everything around it was. And he was grieving for her loss. Wow. Ponder that. It worked out, but yet I have never had that before. So this is the death of an ex. And like I said, I've had a lot of this, but the client had found out that her ex-husband died. And a lot of us have my age group, 60s and 70s. We have had exes that have passed away. I've actually had two. And that is really amazing. And you wonder their role in your life. And one of them I broke up with, the other one decided he would get married and forgot to tell me for a year. Really? Well, it's a long story, but he thought he had a good reason. But it wasn't for lack of love, it was for personal responsibility of helping the kids out. So guilt, and not always justified. We will feel guilty and we will try to feel guilty, even if that's not part of the equation, because they died and you did not finish the business of why you were brought together. Cat sneezing. Um, Maybe you left, and a lot of this we can identify. Some of these is my story. Some of them are my friends, my families, and my goodness, and on and on. But it kind of solidifies a lot of the same issues that so many of us go through. In my world of giving readings, I had kind of like thought, I think there's only 7 or 8 basic personality traits. And you think about, well, Nancy, you're not right. Yeah, just different variations of 7 different kinds. And I thought, well, then our experiences may be very similar. And we don't always meet up and match up with people like mine. My first husband and I, we dated all 4.5 years in high school. Catholics, he was Catholic family. And so it was expected to be married early. And we did. I put him in college, and by the time I tried to get to it, I ended up going part-time because I couldn't give up my paycheck. I had spent enough time. So at that point, who are you? And one of the reasons after cancer I left him is because to find myself. And yes, we had problems, but if you get married at 19 and 20 years old, who wouldn't have problems? We evolve. We don't even become human adults until we're between 25 and 30 years old. A lot of times we end up being different people than we started out. And how
Hmm.
many times has someone said to you, I don't know that person anymore? I'm the same, but that person's different. Well, let me tell you, from the other side, they're looking at you saying the same thing. We evolve. And if we didn't evolve, then what are you living for? What are you here for? Why do you think you picked this life? And why are you growing? Are you growing? Are you stagnant? Are you surrendering? Did you give up? We have to look at that. It's very, very difficult. So guilt not always just
Uh-oh. Okay, like I said, like she said, her internet's been doing weird things, and hopefully she can come back in. I'm gonna try and take her out and bring her back in. So just hang loose, guys. Hang loose. Let's see if I can fix this. Let me ace her out. Okay, get her back in.
side, like you
I got
left a
you.
message.
Oh, maybe not. She's been having an internet problem all day. So hang on. Okay, hang on. It's gonna be like that tonight. Not the first time it's happened. She'll probably have to go out. Hang on. There. We'll have her come back in. Technical difficulties. So we'll have her go out and come back in if she sees my text message. But yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult topic. I get a lot of people that ask me about this stuff too. As a ghost hunter, which is interesting, when we're out in the field, um, part of our questionnaire, because my team does take out like a 101 questionnaire, and so we're very thorough with our questioning. And one of the questions that we ask is about this exact thing. We're asking about loss, and we're asking about you know especially the part where she was talking about somebody who's on cocaine and things like that. That's part of our questioning. That's something we have to know because it could make all the difference in the world. With how you deal with a case. So essentially, just even doing psychic work and doing ghost hunting work, it's similar work. It's similar work in how you look at it, because you are dealing with somebody's um, well being. when you're out, because somebody may be hallucinating. You don't know it yet, right? You don't know that they're hallucinating or not. So you have to know, if they're having issues, what's going on with their background. Oh, she's back. Let's see if we get her back in. Okay.
I'm afraid this might continue. I'm sorry, everybody. Uh,
She's back. Okay, yes, go ahead.
okay, so there's a lot of reasons why we could be married, and then we evolve and become different people. Married too young, absolutely. And you have to appreciate in my generation, I got married in '67. That was very common to be married early. Now a lot of people say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
college and ever. But a lot of kids met in high school, and in my world, there were five couples in our Catholic faith. All five of us got married on the second day, the next day after 2 year graduation. And all five of us have since divorced, which is a shame, but it
Mm-hmm.
is what it is. Outside of our Catholic clique was a couple that my husband knew, and they are still married. And they moved to Wyoming, Montana, or somewhere. And so out of six couples, only one is still married, which is too bad. Because of pregnancy, kids nowadays, anytime kids are being born before they're even committed to each other. But if you force them to marry in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, this 2000 on on, it's been more acceptable. And like I say, economically, sometimes we'll marry because we need someone to support us. And sometimes those you have to go to a place of realizing if you're going to ask me to success in this relationship, and I get, "Eh," then I have to say things like, "You got troubled waters ahead." And when that time comes, it's your choice to continue or not. And if you read between the lines, sometimes they go, oh, Nancy's telling me. But I cannot live your life. Don't you tell me, oh, does that mean we're divorced now? It says you have crossroads. It's an anchor in the ground. You
Mm-hmm.
either going to continue or not, but I can't tell you which way to go because I don't want your life. Remember that. Later in life, realizing that economic comfort would have been better if you had stayed married. You'd be amazed the number of ladies that talk to me later in life, and even ones that divorced early, marry and divorced again, will go back to the one that was most successful. I wish I had stayed married. I think you weren't happy. It won't be working out again. Rarely. And in the papers just recently, like the last couple of weeks, I saw articles. Oh, love rekindled. They got together again after 50 years of high school, 50 years of marriage and divorce, and they're all happy and everything. Well, I like to talk to those couples, like what was it that was, what did you remember that you rekindled this time? Did that part really change? Yeah, yeah. Okay. Uh, unconsciously, um, we will live our life with the unconscious hope, wishes, wants, and desires. You may even dream about it. You may have talked about it, but if I talk to somebody, I can catch when I suspect unconscious desire. And so you may be hopeful for a reunion of the one that you left behind, and they can even be married. Somehow, unconsciously, we're hoping that they'll divorce and get on a white horse and come and get you. Like, oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
so sorry, I left her for you. Left you for her. Excuse me. And we will keep our hope alive. And then when that person has passed away, that hope, that rekindling, that knight on the shining horse is no longer there, and we feel an emptiness. All right, there's a lot of YouTubes that are going out tonight. My phone just goes every time there's noise here. And so this is really crazy. Have you never received a final validation of a sorry? Absolutely, that won't happen. Even if you get a sorry, you would not believe it, and you would want more. You'd be surprised the number of people say they wish they call up and beg me to come back. Jealous that your ex found someone else and you felt that she just wanted his money, not his love. That's a true thing too. Especially with older men, they find younger women or they go overseas for another spouse and they left you because they want someone younger. Oh my gosh. Please don't do that, gentlemen. Uh, 9 out of 10 of the marriages won't be successful emotionally. A lot of times you bring the lady over and they have a child or whatever, they get situated to find a career and then they leave you, or they don't. and you realize you were used and it doesn't work. I can't even, at least 10 the last 10 years, 15 years, let's do 15 years of the people I've talked to and that it didn't work. How could they rekindle it? I just, now Art Bell married somebody from the Philippines and supposedly they were happy, but he did pass away a few years after they had the child. So it wasn't like a long term, unfortunately. And he was the one that hosted Coast to Coast AM. Um, the gentleman owes you money and now he's died and you were hoping to get that money for your old age. And that's causing a lot of grief. Amazing, amazing. These are just ideas, and then I'm going to talk about how to handle it. When we partner up with someone, we create a movie in our mind of how we think the relationship will pan out and into the future. And this is a good and bad thing because that sometimes the interest that you have together, and a lot of times I'll tell people you're dating, okay, what is your common goal? What's your common ground? And for this husband, we have horses, we have Pacific Bell Telephone Company. Uh, I mean, it goes on and on, golfing. And I told everybody when he only came for a session because he had been widowed a few years earlier, and he found out I golf offered golf lessons, and the family joked, "Oh, gosh, she got free golf lessons." So, whatever the reason, right? So this one is really hard. So you have an ex who owes you money, and then he dies, and you'd be amazed at the number of grieving, and the people will come back and say, "Did he hide the money? Is there another will? Is there any way I can approach the family? Can I get the jewelry back that he gave his daughter?" Just on and on, any way that can recoup dollars. That's very, very difficult. But in reality, all things I mentioned to you are the things that you'll lay in bed at night and grieve over. It's amazing how we have that, what we call emotional loop, over and over and over. And you'll create that loop and carry it around with you all the time. You just keep it buried inside until you get over the grieving anger level. Grieving anger is very similar in the hold it can have on you. You have to work it out. And I'm going to give you some ideas. We tend to lose ourselves in marriage, and by giving up our wishes, wants, hopes, and desires, I said this earlier, for the sake of not wanting a spouse not to want us. So a lot of women, men, you'll date a man and he'll throw all his skeletons on the tabletop. You go, wow, that was hurtful. That was a lot. Really? Wow, you were in jail. I didn't know. And then you go at the end of the evening, gee, individuals nice. They go both ways. Most of the women I deal with, I've had people say things and women will go, well, I'm not dating anybody else. He is me. He does like me. So I will be that partner for him. Where you women have a tendency to wait 4 or 5 years to start voicing what is wrong or what they want. Because we subjugate a person, we'll give up ourselves. And that's very difficult. So when you break up with somebody, if it's long term, marriage, whatever, it takes a couple of years to kind of get it back. Now they have rebound relationships. Remember, both men and women, mostly women, talk to me. You have to have a relationship to kind of pull yourself out of it and to regroup and collect who you used to be before you met that individual. And when you break up, I always tell my clients before you break up for a minute, recapture, try to identify why you were brought to that person in the first place. If it was not love or it was economic reasons, that's not good enough reason to go back. But if you were in love, sorry, what was it about that love that you were finding in that individual? Um, so when you go there and you identify, oh, we like to drive in the car in the countryside, or we had horses and we would go to the horse rink or something, and or we like to golf. I just use my example here. Telephone company. I was amazed that my husband and I actually crossed paths. He was the manager and I was too. And at Silicon Valley, there was a huge telephone company. I thought to myself, a couple times we crossed each other's paths. We were there at the same time. That's kind of crazy, right? So it's kind of interesting to talk about the same peoples. It's amazing how those things will connect to you. Um, so find out those things, and if you can identify them, say to yourself, let me bring that up to my partner that I'm having trouble with and see if we can rekindle or bring forth that initial love. Then you don't have to break anything. But a lot of times that I want to address here is that if you're too young, you're married for economic reasons, or you need something in a relationship when it breaks up, if you don't settle those issues, why you broke up. You need to find yourself. You have to identify who you are as a human being, why you're on this planet, and find that purpose, path, and passion that will help you live the rest of your life. Not always will we do that. One day I was talking to a gal, and she really wanted to know why she was here. It seemed like her life was pretty rough, and she asked me, why should I stay alive? And I've had like, I would say, four people, four people who are on the brink of wanting to kill themselves. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't think that's the right way to go. But then I think differently. I'll go to the bitter end just because I want to see how my movie ends. See what can happen. Every day someone says, "Oh, your future is, your future is." What they're doing is hitting the anchors. They are telling you the anchors what is the most possible possibility. Other than that, it's amazing to think that you have control of your life. If you have control of your life and you're carrying this big anchor, you put around of an unrelinquished relationship, money, love, whatever it is, you at the time you before you leave that person, you have to follow through. The one problem is the divine, he, she who governs all, won't let us go backwards. They won't let us go back in time. But I want to share with you, we did talk about this one time. Even in the throes of a marriage that's dysfunctional and bad and harmful, if you can forgive that person, the weight can be lifted. Absolutely. But you have to mean it. Because if you don't mean it, it doesn't do good. Because only time can heal ultimately. You've gone on, forgive them if he was a bad person, he knew not better. If it's him looking at her, she was a victim of her woundology of being abused by her mother or father. Those kinds of wounds coming forward are absolutely tremendous. Happens with a man too. I've talked to a lot of women when I enter time. I go, oh my gosh, it just happened. I went into a gentleman. I says, oh yeah, oh my God, there's abuse in his family when he's young. Oh my gosh. And she says, oh yes, he was. And I said, you didn't mention it. That's why he's acting the way he is. That's why he acts young because he never wanted to grow up because the stress of responsibility was too much for him. So you get in that quandary, but I love him, but he's mistreating me. Oh my, oh my. It can happen in so many different ways. So this is really difficult stuff. I don't want to scare you. Heavens, we're not going to experience everything I was talking about. But for you who are the readers, you better be aware these are the kinds of different situations that can happen. You never know. When I was doing the psychic fairs in in California, in the first 15 years, 2 or 3 times a week, I was out talking, giving, Shar knows I was just like everywhere. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I never knew. And at one point, for a reader, it was almost exciting. I wonder what I'm going to talk about today. And at this age, I'm really open. What can we talk about? And just this week, just this week, talking to a young lady and possibility of UFO abduction. I can't believe it. She had markings on her. Amazing. So you never know. It's just fabulous, fabulous. So we do tend to lose ourselves in the marriage. Sometimes that will split the marriage up if you're not honest and outgoing with what you desire and what you need. Now remember, I got married a long time ago. It was a totally different era. So early in the telephone company, 24 years, they saw something in me. So the first time they asked me for management, we lived quite a bit of ways, 40 minutes of freeway driving before I got to the office. And I was going to be promoted. My husband said, these are your kids. You need to be here for them. I turned it down. It happened again. The third time I accepted it because I had broke up with him. So unfortunately, third or fourth time. So in some ways, when I realized I wanted to leave, part of it was to find myself. And sure enough, I did get promoted last 7 years. And then I struck out with this business. It taught me a lot to be able to be strong enough to do this and to take the risk. And my kids didn't want me to leave because I had had cancer. Oh, mom, you're going to leave the telephone company, the medical, all that. I says, yeah, but if I only live 5 more years, not on my terms, what's the point? And God said, got her. 30 years, 33 years later, I'm still doing this. So clearly, this was the path that was meant to be for this lifetime, and this is why I chose this path. Some of you say, well, Nancy, you just, whoa, 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 whoa. You'd be surprised. So the lady I was talking about earlier came to me and says, my life, I can't figure out why I'm here. And all of a sudden I got a vision of a young man and I described it. She says, oh, that's my brother. I says, you're older than this one? Yeah, a couple of years. I says, do you ever feel like you're the mother? Do you ever feel like you're the witness? And she looked at me, she goes, I've always watched over him and he got in trouble and I helped to straighten him out. I says, is it possible that you chose together to come first and let him redo his life? And you may be the witness, and that is a good enough reason for you to be born. Yes, you had children, but the purpose and the passion of his lifetime could have been the love of this other individual, this person, of which in this lifetime he is your brother. She was just amazed. She said, how you figure that out? I says, I asked who was connected to you in this lifetime, and where is the karmic connection, the thread that connects you? It's not a brother and sister, it's a totally different thread. And it was the man I described, it happened to be your brother, younger brother. So you cannot minimize the importance of this lifetime. In the big scope of things, even if we all live to be 100, how many hundreds of thousands of years? This young man, Josh of Expedition Unknown, he went to Israel, some other country in the Far East to find out his genealogy. And the fellow said, well, in 2,000 years, there's 40 generations. I'll never forget that. All 40 generations. I have in my family tree Anasazi Jewish and on the Mediterranean. And I go, oh my gosh, I have Portuguese, but yet I'm 59% English and Scottish, which is amazing to me. And the last century is American Indian. Guess what I look like? The American Indian. But I was amazed because I thought to myself, wow, all the way back 40 generations to that place. How many lives are in there that maybe we tried again? 40 generations, let alone how many thousands? Some young man said to me, there are more people alive today than all of history. I said, that's history you know of. Are they not finding other civilizations here? What makes you think we're the only planet? Shar and I were talking, Karen Rossi and I are putting a book together. Well, I'll eventually get it done. And I was talking about a client, she was talking about a client who had all these issues. And I put my mind to the client. I went, oh my God, there was an alien on her back the size of a human with big tentacles coming, and it looked just like a starfish. And I went, oh, I was, I said, her symptoms are, and these two kept star things like a starfish. Two went right through her body and around her rib cage, was holding on. And I go, I couldn't believe it. I says, really? And I've mentioned her before, and I mentioned this other one. I'll mention it again. There was another friend named Karen, and she wanted to go to Sacramento and watch his Chandler. She was a blonde lady. She sat on a pedestal area, and she'd sit there and she was swaying back and forth. And I just kind of have time with that, right? And this young lady sitting right in front of me. The chairs weren't so close like an airplane; they were a little further apart. But she was a brown-haired lady, youngish. I don't think she was 40 years old. If she was 40, it was the early 40s. She was very young looking. And she asked this lady, she said, I'm having a very difficult time in this lifetime, in this life, connecting to people. I can't be around them. It's just really hard on me. And so the woman saw her as a man with a Scottish kilt, and he was a warrior. And the minute she started talking, oh my God, I almost had a heart attack. She burst into flames. She had never been in the physical form before. She had come from a planet of energized energy that was collected, and it looked like a flame to me, like a blue flame,
Hmm.
you know. And I talked to Karen afterward. I said, this woman never been in the flesh before. She didn't know how to identify with flesh and being near people. Spirit people say to me, excuse me, I've been looking for you, that one of the reasons they come back is they like the thickness of our bodies. You know, get that hug. Let me tell you what it feels like to kiss babies. I have a 6 and 8 year old. Oh, hello. Oh, I mean, grandchildren. And it's like kissing hot coffee. Hello. I'm not a big food eater, but I do like the coffee, and I've tried all flavors. But I've Starbucks butterscotch roasted, and a couple other pumpkin. Starbucks pumpkin. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So maybe I've come back because I'm a lover of coffee. I mean, who knows? I know why, but I'm doing this. That's why I'm here. And so the reasons we're here got off track. Let's get it back. So pick the reasons why you're here and the value of here. Re-identify who you are and the passion and path that could be given to you because of the catalyst, because of the divorce, because of the death. It is a point of separation, a point of letting go and acknowledging that it's okay for you now to be free of the grief and the burden and the letdown and whatever encompassing with that. No, I don't like you to lose money. Someone that I had stolen my credit cards from me stole a lot of money from me right after my divorce. Yeah, really ruined me. And he's never paid me a dime. I think he might be gone. He would be 90. So it'd be very, very unlikely he'd be alive. Have to let that go. That's part of my past. What was the purpose of it? Reaffirmed to me that money isn't everything, that I now broke away from the security of a telephone company paycheck. And now, after divorce, my money from the divorce now is gone. It was all on me to fight as hard as I can to create my new path. It was after I left telephone company, he stole the mail from me and ran up 4 credit cards to the brink. So, in some ways, that would never be recapturable. I still have the contract, but where am I going to get it? How am I going to get it? He has nothing. So in some ways, I also had to give up the dream of getting my money back. In reality, my path was to work as hard as I can to capture my path and my purpose, to go to a place of fulfilling why I chose this life. Having that extra money was too big of a cushion. The universe said, she's got to get rid of that. Do I blame him? Can I forgive him? I have to forgive him because he was the instrument of something I had to play out. I was very resentful for a few years because I couldn't believe it would happen to me, and I counsel people all the time. But in some ways, when I look back, I realize that the pieces, the things that happen in our life are very crucial for the anchoring of life changes. Got it? Um, there's such a thing as, and this is not a negative statement, that as you are married, oh my gosh, the grass is always greener. That book was on Bonbag. So what was her name? The grass is always greener on the other side, and sometimes it isn't. That is not a wrong statement. It's a wrong attitude. There are never mistakes. I don't want you to call me and say my husband killed my children. Don't like that. Uh-uh. Can't deal with that because I'm a grandmother, great grandmother. And at some point, that is tough stuff. If I said to you the children knew it would be a short term, so Coleman called me and said the daughter had ectopic pregnancy, and they've been trying for decades to have children, a decade to have children. How many years? A lot of years. And yet I said that there's a male soul still with her. So the soul of that lost ectopic pregnancy that could not have survived, the spirit didn't go anywhere. It's just staying. You're going to have it again. Maybe it'll come back as a girl this time. Come in as a girl versus the boy. People who read me think I have a male soul, but I'm heterosexual. It's just that I have strength in this lifetime. I had to grow into it, but I've always been very strong. I don't know many women that can run like I used to do and ride horses like I used to and do all things I did, unless you have that energy to push forward as hard as I did, lived as hard as I did. Um, so these anchors, I call them, significant things. When you looked at the life and said, "Wow, that's kind of interesting. Oh my God, look how tough it is. Ooh, that might be interesting." So I was talking to this spirit man one time. I said, "Why did you come here? Did you see how I got to die? Wow, I think it was a train accident." He said, "That was really exciting." I thought, "It was." So sometimes it's a matter of the the accumulation of all. And I thought to myself, well, okay, when I pass over, I'm going to go travel. I would love to see some New York apartments. I'll never get there. The big fancy kind, just to walk around. And there's spirit people here all the time. The other day I was talking to my husband, and all of a sudden this man shows up. And I go, and he recognized him as his cousin. Hadn't seen him in 30 years. It was just like they were visiting. We do live, we survive. and we get to go on. So explain to me why you're grieving over something you have no control over. You can't go back in time. You can't get mad. It doesn't pay to get mad. It just says, well, you could write a letter and do a ceremony. And I always encourage people to get a Nerf baseball bat and hit a rock, excuse yourself, hug the rock or the tree and say, I can use you for a few minutes. I apologize for this. Or get a punching bag in the garage and beat the heck out of it. Get the energy out of your soul so that you have a way of continuing on and get started. That anchor was there for a purpose and for your passion to be discovered. Love it. I love it. I don't like life sometimes. I've had a lot of health issues. And people in Sharp will say to you, why is it that so many psychics, intuitives, and all that, they die early? You know, we had Nancy Bradley died, boom, like that,
Yeah.
walking across the floor. I can't remember if it was aneurysm or something, something. It was very, very quick and she didn't suffer at all. Why is that? I don't have an answer. I think that on some level, do we burn out too quick? So you and Curtis get into this to take care of yourself. I seem to be okay. I've had a lot of health issues though, but I think the penalty of doing what you're doing is that you work too much. We love it crazily. I love doing this. Oh, go ahead, Shar.
I think from from what I'm seeing with my paranormal team, and the sickness, because I've made that list, as to what's going on with everybody. I think what it is every time we are touched by spirit, and you talk about that feeling that they get, that energy that they don't have anymore.
Right.
When they touch us, they get to feel that energy, and they love it.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think every time that we come in contact with spirit, every time we're touched, they take a little bit of us with them.
As when we do a reading,
Yeah,
because I've had
and that's and
thousands of
that's
clients say, "Oh, I feel so good after talking to you," and I'll say, "Yeah, you took a whole cup of me, and you're
yeah,
not giving
and
it back."
that's what I think happens. And I think we get to a certain point where we've been drained so much that our body can't drain anymore, and then that's it.
Mhm.
That's what I think.
Okay, so continue. I'd like to finish this tonight because I have other
We're
topics for
we're
other
cheered
weeks.
up now.
Yeah, cheer it up. This is a tough topic, everybody.
Yeah.
And if you can help pass the word on of becoming those, taking this as class material, realize that life is you can't fail life. You just fail trying. Even under the worst circumstances, I have a young man that's in prison, and it was like he was a stupid 17-year-old and shot somebody. And yet I saw him get his ministry and helping other young men in prison become, or he gets out and does it. So
Mhm.
his path wasn't what he thought. It hasn't even happened yet. So
Mhm.
in some ways, he volunteered to help others. So he will be in service. And like I just said, you cannot fail life. You can only fail trying.
Mhm.
Seeking out and discovering yourself is our greatest reward. Accepting challenges to both mental and physical self is stepping out of our comfort zone is a gift of seeing the ultimate potential of pushing ourselves.
Mhm.
And it's very exciting to try new and wonderful things. Even getting lost or driving to the Bay Area like I'm planning to coming up. Anticipate of the drive, it's going to be a long drive, but yet getting to a new area and try a new restaurant with my girlfriend, ooh,
Mhm.
you know, those who are not willing to accept, you've known people that are just not wanting to step out of their comfort zones. They stay in their home, they stay in their garage, and every day is just the same, just the same, just the same because it's that comfort level. Why change what won't break? I'm all for that. As people get older, I've seen people, a lot of seniors watch TV. I have never, don't watch much TV. I haven't watched TV except for the news first thing in the morning. There's a lot of things that are very, very educational. I love the travel station, learning about the Aztecs and the Egypts, and oh my gosh, Andy, too fast. Uh, I don't cook a lot, but that gentleman that unfortunately died a few years back, the tall lean guy, and Baudo, I
Yeah.
loved it. I don't even cook, but he made it so exciting to go to different countries. Stepped outside of his comfort zone to live the world, and he got it. He just burned out. Um, You know those who won't step out of their comfort zone. That is their path.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, those who are excited about life or try to be, I'm not going to let this down, get me down. I'm going to push. I'm going to open every door. I'm going to open every meetup group I can find that's interesting, UFO, ghost investigation. I don't care what it is. We seem to live longer and keep our brains. The ones that sit home a lot and have a very comfortable, quiet life, they don't always keep their mental capacities.
Mhm.
And I want everybody to excite about life and try everything. I don't fly very easily. I don't travel a lot, but that does mean I don't drive, so sometimes I like to be on the ground. I have an odd fascination with architecture. Sometimes I want to go cross country, as Shar and I want maybe ghost investigation, UFO investigation, just the old towns. I love it. Okay, let's keep going. These individuals, male and female, have the highest numbers of memory challenges and loss of physical movement than those willing to risk or continue to learn. That's very important to remember. The value of ownership of oneself is utmost for each of our lifetimes. We forget to own who we are. That's a very tricky question. But who are you? Are you willing to accept your own breath, your own? Can you sit and be in your own person? Have you? And I'm not one to sit and meditate. I don't know how. Yeah, but I can sidestep when I do a reading and do what I need for you and come back. It's like a vacation. I come back to my own self, my own personage, and I go, I feel better. It's two different situations. So learn who you are and accept what you've learned and the challenges. My father was killed when I was 6. And after he started showing up, I do remember him. It was the first time I seen a spirit person, probably a catalyst for this ability to start again. And over the years, I didn't talk about it. And I went, oh, grandmother tells me she has recordings of me talking about dad. Okay, maybe I was doing it. I'm not insane. Okay. And the near death experience. Um, all the anxiety you are suffering and the partner that you left and have guilt over, that partner is not aware of how much grief you are shedding for them. Rarely have I found, and I mean it, rarely have I found someone grieving so profoundly and going to that partner. What is he thinking? And he's not thinking of you at all. You're wasting your energy. Hmm. Doesn't mean you should call him up and say, by the way, I'm thinking of you and grieving. You are just really, more man or woman, doesn't matter to me, and you're living your life and being happy, but I'm miserable. You think they would take that phone call? You think they think about you being miserable? Mm-mm. Don't waste your tears on someone who doesn't deserve it. On the heels of retirement, a second divorce, children moving away, college, etc., we will have life transitional periods I call anchors. And that can create lonely times to reflect and questions our actions of the past. What if, what did I did not did do to create this difficult time in my life or the situation? And where I am today and where am I going to be going in the future? How am I going to be happy? Whoa, I've had that question so many times, you'd be amazed. Could we have made it work? In the middle of the night is not a good time to rethink all that over. Okay. Um, which also surprised me as a counselor of what I do. It's amazing to me the responsibility they expect me to be able to come up with. I can only work within the boundaries of who I am, what I am. S- Sorry. Um, but I can determine roadblocks. If you're grieving, I can go back, lots, go back in time to something that you may have forgotten, a 4-year-old. That person, you as a 4-year-old, had a stumbling. And every time someone brought it up from the past you broke up with or the death, rekindled that woundology. I call it the white feather effect. We inside are unconsciously always carrying with us the wounds of the past. My father dying, absolutely. And I don't want to go into tonight. And I would say that wound buried deep in me is a white feather. Hold it in front of me and I blow on it. Oof. And it bends over. We have that effect. So every time someone blows on that white feather of your wound, or what color you like, peacock, I don't care. Blow on it, it rekindles the incident. And no, I'm important. Petty with me. Yes, I know. Okay, so we have to identify that, and sometimes I'll have to bring that up so that they will say, "Oh, I remember that now. I should let that go." Yeah. Lay in bed and hashing out the ideas cannot be changed. And what has happened, and the God divine, he or she who governs all. What? Well, not let us roll back the clock. We can't go back. Joe, come here. Joe, he's scratching my chair and it's leather. Come on, no matter the outcome, coming in were you aware of what would be on your path? If you knew that you were going to have these things happen, would you take your life, take this opportunity to live this life or not? We all do because you're here. And it's sometimes we have to go to a place and say, boy, did that hurt. Now let's see, why was that given to me? And I have to do it too. Shar has to do it. We have to look at these things. What is it sorry, what is it we're learning in this life because of that action? How did it change you? And I've had some health issues. I go looking at this, I go, why am I doing this? Well, sometimes you have a lot, so it's finished because the next chapter of your life will be very exciting. You don't want to be held up. So dental and all the things I've had to do lately, it's kind of like, wow, I'm getting done. I'm young enough to get these things done. I'm young enough, but I'm also able to get them done. So with that, we are all young enough to accomplish. If I said, think back 15, 20 years, what was going on? That was then, this is now. What did you learn? Accept, forgive, go on, see your value, be appreciative, thank the universe, whatever it takes, because we are all worthy of living as much life as possible. And those of us that grieve the most, guess what's happening? You're shortening your life.
Hmm.
And you have to think of it that way. Well, we're only a few minutes late. I did it. It was a lot of material.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
That was a lot of material. Very well put. Very well put.
I hope so because well, it's easy to. At one time I said don't know. I'm closing this so I can see the hi everybody in there. Jennifer and Kathy, Pamela. Oops. God, we had some even got some. I'm going too fast. If I looked over your name, I apologize. Sometimes I want to be in the chat room and go back and forth. I don't know. I went too fast, but I know there's other people listening. It's a lot of information. I hope you got something from it, especially those who want to be readers. This is not easy. Don't go in it with half an action of, oh, I'm going to be a psychic reader. Everybody can do that. No, you can't. Not everybody can. You have to go with the highest ethical standing. I have also another expression that came from a card. Entrance another soul is a sacred honor. Then I add to it, never wound another soul, because
Hmm.
that will come back at you. What you do wrong in harming others, you better be watching because the universe says we have to experience both sides of the teeter-totter.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. So, how can
Okay,
people find you?
nancymatz.com is where, and I did migrate some of the pages over to the other one, Nancy Matz Author. Both of them have some of my books up. I have a lot more at author, Nancy Matz Author. If you want an appointment, see me. nancymatz.com is the best place because it
Alrighty
has all the
then.
information. All right.
Alrighty. All right, guys. I will be. Well, there's no shows planned for next week yet. We haven't got that far yet. However, we do have a show on Sunday, of course, to read from our paranormal book. So we're going to be doing that, and then Sunday around 11 a.m. Pacific. Again, I'm going to be taking you guys live with me to have dinner. I mean, to have brunch over at uh, Black Bear
Well, she
Diner.
has breakfast late, so it's brunch for you, it's breakfast for her.
Yeah. So Black Bear Diner, 11 a.m. Pacific, California time, and so I'll be taking you guys along for that. Tonight,
What
it's
day
going
is
to be
it,
about
hon? What day is that?
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay. At
So
11
tonight,
Pacific time.
in about 40 minutes, I'll be joining you over at TikTok, at California Haunts TikTok, and we're going to be having some good old time doing some readings and fooling around and joking around and just having a grand old time. Okay. So that being said, I'm going to sign off here, and I hope you guys who aren't following us this weekend have a great weekend. That's fine too. You can always go back and watch what we do. But for all of you guys that are gonna go over to TikTok with me, I'll be looking to see you in about 40 minutes. Okay. Have a great evening, everybody.
Have a good, nice talking to you. Nice that you showed up.